It's an exciting time for South African rugby. The men's senior team sit top of the world rankings and are looking for an undefeated 2025. At the time of recording, the men's under 20s team is set for their first World Championship final in over a decade. But perhaps most intriguingly, the Springbok women are set for their biggest adventure yet as they take on the Rugby World Cup in England later this year. Joining me to deep dive that and more, I am thrilled to say that I am joined by Springbok Women coach Swys de Bruin. Swys, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks you. And it's so nice to speak to you. I can see it's sunny London, and down here the weather is a bit gloomy. So we changed roles a bit, my mate.
It is, yes. I should say big shout out to MV Velman from the Lekker Rugby Pod for putting us in touch and setting this up. I always joke with him that he says, "Oh, it's freezing, it's 20 degrees," and I say, "Oh, it's boiling here, it's 20 degrees." So I think it's just that we're used to different temperatures. Um, Quite first question: is it true? And I don't know this because I've got very limited knowledge of Afrikaans. Is it true that Swys is an abbreviation? Is short for something?
Yes, yeah. It's in Afrikaans we say it's French really, Francois, but in Afrikaans we say François. Now François is the sort of the Dutch way of saying Francois, and then to abbreviate that, I'm just Swys, not François, but for Swys. So
So
yeah, my mates said especially my one mate when I was with the Sharks coaching there, he said I was dancing like Patrick Swayze. So it's almost got a double meaning. So I prefer that.
Okay. So what's your full name? I know a lot of South Africans have got very long names. Do you have a very long name?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's full. It's Zachariah, which is a Bible name, Zachariah Francois de Bruin. So that's how we operate in this country. But
Th-
my sons who are in London and they live in London, and my grandson, they've got the same name. So it's a family name, comes a long, long way.
Wow, that's awesome. We on another podcast we interviewed Marnus van der Merwe earlier this year, and I understand I can't remember exactly what it is, but he's got a very, very long name. Like it's kind of like, oh, okay, we'll just call you Marnus then.
I can imagine. It must be Hermanus something.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. So, okay, let's get on with some actual talking some rugby questions then. So, I guess, do you support what I said in the intro? Would you agree that it's a very exciting time in South African rugby at the moment? How would you describe the vibe?
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Firstly, Rassie and them are definitely setting the trend for what's happening in South African rugby. You know what when he started, I was fortunate to be with him to 2018 when we started, and yeah, since now it's absolutely growing. It's getting the nation together. All sports are suddenly doing well. It's a fantastic time to be a South African sportsman, and yeah, started from Rassie, our cricketers doing well, the athletes are doing well. So it seems like Rassie sort of got the name, the Rainbow Nation together, and everyone, because we're fortunate to have such a diverse, all the cultures together, and if you can pull all the strengths together of the different ethnic groups. It really can be, it's becoming a force in our sport. So that's nice to be part of it.
Is that the secret then? Does for South Africa, does it need to be more than just winning? Does it need to be proper representation of all the groups?
I think so, yeah. And every group has got a definite strength. If you look at the Springbok side per se, look at our wingers and our fullbacks from the coloured community. They are just extremely quick and they proper athletes. Every single winger and fullback in this country from a certain area is doing so well. And then the same with the black guys. From Beast Matawira started at almost at the Sharks, and Bongyon Umbanambi and all those guys. They're the powerhouses. They're so strong and they traditionally strong. And then you've got the Afrikaans guys community. Rugby is in their blood. It's in our blood. We just live it. It's what we do. And then and then you've got a couple of English guys that that's got a slot in here and there. No, just a joke. Really it's representing the full South Africa, and yeah, it's a nice time to be, as I said earlier. It's a nice time to be part of this Rainbow Nation team.
Is that something that you take inspiration from then with the women's team?
Oh yeah, for sure. The same with us, where we come from, and especially our backgrounds. And it's where the women's team is almost much more real, because a lot of the girls that know it, some of them, when you pull them into the rugby setup, professional setup, some of them first time stayed in hotels or flying an aeroplane, or they're from really, really disadvantaged backgrounds. So it's unreal to see the growth. And yeah, it's only the start for us in women's rugby. For example, we haven't won a game at the World Cup as yet, and we're number 12 in the world. But seeing what we've done, from last year, losing with a point to Australia, and doing well against Italy, and beating Spain convincingly in Spain. Yeah, the trend is up, and we were very fortunate. We played Canada now for 2 tests, and they're number 2 in the world, and we learned so many lessons. But the growth is there. You can see the growth. You can see the hunger, and yeah, it's great times for women's rugby.
So what did you learn specifically from those Canada tests? So I caught bits of them. I think the first test was 50 to 20 that they won, and then you brought those score lines down in the second test. But I think even with if on paper maybe a one-sided scoreline, if you actually watch the game, I think that you really asked them some tough questions that they weren't used to facing. Their Paul Lou said, I think we needed some support after the first game. You really threw some things at them that they weren't expecting. What did you take from that game? How do you look back on them?
Yeah, looking back, that always it was small margins. That's where we're still way behind. When the pressure situation comes, the final pass or the final tackle, we still got to make that step up. A team like Canada just know how to finish. I think we had more or less, they had about 9 line breaks and we had about 7. So, but they finished well, and we still battle with that. And some of the, the girls was almost shocked that look, we're right through now, just finish, and then something would happen. Yeah, it was a bit frustrating with 19-5 with 10 minutes to go, and we were attacking. I thought this can become close, a good turnaround from the last big defeats we had in the past against them. So that helped us with our confidence, and the girls are going to start believe, because that's a big thing. They got to believe that we can be better, and it's happening.
Is that what it comes down to? Belief? Is it not? It's not just practicing your handling, your catching and passing. It's all to do with the mindset.
I think that plays a big role for them. A lot of the girls started late playing rugby, not like in the rest of the world. They started at some of them after school, and yeah, belief is the big thing. And belief only, and it's not only belief in the broader sense. It's belief in that you can do it, because they when pressure comes and it's a tough situation, that's normally when they fade. So it's under pressure situations that the belief has got to come. Just be patient, build the innings, we'll get there, we'll score, we'll get there. So it's almost a belief under pressure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask is how do you build that up? Because you can't replicate that in training. So the next game is against New Zealand 15, is that right?
Yes, yeah, and as everyone knows, their player depth is so huge in New Zealand. Their franchises are so strong, and we're still way behind with that. But that's the next game. And yeah, I did ask SA Rugby when I got the job last year, August, that listen, we won the Africa Cup. It's sort of easy and we look so good, but we can't go to another World Cup if we don't play against the best. So that's why I'm very happy that we could play against Canada and now New Zealand A team, and to really see where you stand and fit in with the best in the world. And that's not even talking about the English Roses, and they're fantastic. Man, I watch some of their clips and their games again. They really up there with the best. So, but we're growing. We need to pull off a win at the World Cup, and then you never know what can happen after that. Then we've got Italy and France to play, so anything is possible. It's just as I say, believe in a couple of things. Believe that we can do it. Believe that we are much better than we think, and that we can operate under pressure.
When you talk about playing against the best, that's something that gets spoken about in rugby a lot, especially with tier two nations. But we've seen, like recently in the last week, of Portugal getting 100 points put on them by Ireland. Is there a fine margin to tread there with playing against a better team to test yourself, to show yourself you can do it, but also it needs to be, there's no point playing it if you're just going to get absolutely thumped all the time. Where do you draw the value from that?
Yeah, the value absolutely is to be tested under certain circumstances in the game and the pre-game, and then afterwards learning from them. Because I just sent a few clips of Canada to my team and the girls and said, "Listen, guys, we do exactly the same thing. That's where they just do it better." So it's a it's a small margins. But you know what we don't want in sport? If a team like Portugal, but that's more or less where we are. I think they're 12th or 13th in the world, and that's where we are. So, and we're not getting the 100 points against us anymore. We've trimmed it right down to almost a competitive margin. But yeah, it's a tough question that but if you can get to tick the small boxes, it'll look after the big boxes. If you understand what I'm saying, small boxes meaning just the right action at the last time, or someone is through. How do you support? What is the great support line? That's wrong. That's right. So it's not a major thing to trim that down. Rassie, on the other hand, this time around, he went for easier games, and the reason was he wanted to test his player depth, playing different combinations. And we've played how many different guys now in the couple of tests we had. So because they know what they have, they know they're good under pressure. So our aim is different. I want our couple of goals, especially the starting lineup, to know that if you tick the right boxes, you can compete with the best in the world.
Speaking of the best in the world, you mentioned the Red Roses there, and you talk about the level they're on. Statistically, the most successful rugby team ever, the best rugby team in the world in terms of the distance between them and the rest. What about them do you watch and you think, wow, that is on a next level? Can you pinpoint it?
Yeah, for sure I can. Firstly, you look at complete athletes, in every position. It's just not, and they well conditioned, strong athletes with a high skill level, and they can do it. And even if you come hard at them or you're hard off the line, they've got the ability sort of to soak the pressure. And then that you can see rugby is in their veins and in their body for a long time. It's not just a case of a lot of my girls at the moment. If I say my girls, our girls, it's law creations, law things that you still got to sort out. You can do that, you can't do that. How to become better students of the game. Whether Roses, if I look at them, and for that matter, the Canadians and or the Ferns, it's just a case, and I can compare it with golf. It's like scratch handicaps. Uh, Playing against 10 handicapper or 12 handicapper, what is the difference? Is the skill level under pressure, and then their fitness level and their understanding of the game is fantastic to watch. For example, if you kick on them, all 15 of them is in a system on counter attack. There's no one not in place. I would do the same system, for example, and 4 5 of them are still battling with what to do or to run to. Yeah, so it's if you look at a puzzle, most of their puzzles fit easily, and they can all see the puzzle. We've got often some some pieces that really doesn't fit anywhere still, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
So speaking about how you're playing at the moment, as I referenced earlier, is that you really like took them took them to the dark place at scrum time, and you even set up a maul in open play to drive over the try line, which I really enjoyed. Is that you leaning into South African DNA with these players?
Strangely enough, and I mentioned it earlier, our DNA of our team are in a couple of ways the same as the men. They love the physical side, they love mauling, they love scrumming, they love close combat. But as soon as the game opens up and there's spaces to cover, more than just the direct space or the close space, that's where we still battle. But there is a DNA in South Africa that when it's physical, when it's tough, when it's close combat, we're in the fight. But when you play against athletes that don't know how to run, I always say to our defense coach, if I play against us, I'll just go wide, 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 and you'll be in trouble. If so, yeah. But there's a lot of similarities with rugby in South Africa. The hard stuff, the clinical stuff. The only problem where we still lack is the kicking game. For example, I think our average kick was about 38 meters out of hand, distance-wise, where the Canadians can kick at 60 meters. From so when they kick and they apply pressure, we can't recover. So we can't apply that same sort of pressure. So I've got a full-time kicking coach now and I specifically as an attack coach has been my game all my life as trying everything possible to make sure that we have a good attacking system that they enjoy and not only just scrumming or mauling or the physical stuff.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. I didn't have this in my notes, but it's now that you've mentioned it, I will ask it. Is that when I was analyzing the Women's Six Nations and going through some of the stats, something that really sprung out to me was that a big difference between the men's and the women's game is box kicking. And in women's rugby, box kicking, I think Ireland did one box kick in the whole Six Nations. Do you know why that is? Why box kicking isn't so used in women's rugby?
Yeah, it's almost like it's the execution of the kick first, and it's a skill that they sort of battle. Another thing is no one sort of receives the ball from a kickoff like the men. We don't lift and set and drive or something. They catch it freely. None of the girls are it's another interesting thing as well. I said to my forward coach, we can do it in lineouts. We can lift properly. Why don't we lift from kickoffs? So yeah, I've wondered why, and it's funny enough saying that. I don't want to give secrets away, but that's one department where I can up a lot with our team if we can understand the sequence or the storybook of a good box kick. Who's applying the pressure, who's anchoring the base where the kick came from, who's on rabbit, who's on shadow, who's where. And that's one of the work-ons that we do have. Like when I was with the men's team with Rassie and Jock, that became part of our DNA. That if we box kick 70% of what happened after that, the outcome we won. And it's not the case with women. There's a couple of things I still don't know why. I still don't know why in the bus on the way to the game that they start singing and that they're so loud. And for me with the men's team, I want silence in the bus. But that comes with that comes with but so there's a lot of why still. But saying that, I love it because it is different. I've picked up with women, if they're happy and they laugh a lot during the week and there's fun and happiness, and then they play well. With men, almost the opposite. If we had a relaxed week and you think we arrived and we don't have that grind and that look in the eye before the game, men is different. They feel better after they won or after the rugby game. Women play better if they had a good week and a lot of fun and laughter and stuff like that. So that's a couple of the lessons that I learned. And then women is their wiring is totally different. What makes them tick is different. And a lot of more lessons to be learned for me as far as that's concerned. But I'm getting there.
That must be such a challenge after you've been so ingrained in men's rugby all your career to have to go and to pick up on these totally different dynamics. Where do you learn that? Who do you ask for help in these situations?
That's the thing. We had a Lynn Cantwell. She's from Ireland. She was helping us a lot. I got a lot of positives and good stuff from her. She was with us down the tournament as well. What make women rugby tick, and why? How do you motivate and how do you, they even the composure of their bodies are different totally than men. As you know, I don't have to go into depth of that. There certain things happening in a month that doesn't happen to men, and you've got to take that in consideration. I don't want to go too deep into that now, but it's more than just 15 players hitting the pitch and trying to run over people. There's so many things that you can take in consideration. I'll come in the change room and walk, and your timing has got to be perfect because I can't just walk in and out the change room. But when the manager says come in, some of them half time would sit, two of it would sit and cry. Now I think, hell, how the hell you handle that? And then, but you learn quickly, and so it is different. It is definitely a different scenario from men's rugby.
Yeah, but that's so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. One thing that you do have that the men's team has, other than the scrum, is the scrum cap wearing outside backs who are incredibly fast. Like that's some strength that you do have, and that's very exciting to watch. Is that as an attack coach, is that something that you look at and think, ah, I can do something with these players?
Yeah, for sure. You know, with the men's team, I was very fortunate when you in South Africa. We're very fortunate with the pace. If you look at, I think our wingers and our outside backs are the fastest and the quickest and the best steppers in the world. And it seems like you just found the one, and then Edwin van der Merwe will come up and be man of the match, and then it'll be Cheslin Colby, and then it'll be Arendse. So there is one or two of the ladies as well in that mold, but that's one position, if I can be honest with you, that we've still got to find more. There's no replacement for speed, like Canada as well. They would get the ball on an overlap and then or just man on man, the last player, and then would the speed would pull us through. So speed work and those sort of things. That's why in women's rugby we do need a few sprinters maybe that can catch a ball and start playing rugby, or the various codes. That's more. So yeah, but to to come back to the men's side, man, we're blessed with unreal speedsters and steppers. And I look at the under 20s now. If you don't, I don't know if you saw that game that the under 20s played in the World Champs now. That another three guys on the back three, the wingers and the fullback. They when you kick on them, you can just as well run to your poles and wait there because they and yeah, it's becoming a again a South African thing that we don't just have to scrum and kick and box kick. We've got multi skilled kick runners, and steppers, which we don't have so much in the women's game yet. You must understand, you just on that our system in South Africa, the Bulls are the only professional rugby side, the Blue Bulls, women's rugby now. So when they play, they beat most of the other franchises by big scores, 50 to 80, round after round, game after game. So, for example, they never learn to really defend. Now they become our national players. So a lot of work is you can run and play now, and you got. So it's the if we don't sort out our franchise rugby and strength versus strength, we're going to battle going forward. That's one of the things that we need to sort out. That we play competitive rugby, strength versus strength, more often. Otherwise, we're just going to run around the same corner.
So what's the plan for that then domestically? I saw, I think a year or so ago about the there's crazy number of professional contracts being handed out by SA Rugby. What's the plan to get the Bulls Daisy some more competition?
Yes, yeah, we've got a guy called Dave Vessels who's now Rassie gave him the role of to look after the sevens and the under 20s and the women's rugby. So he's got definite plans in place that we get strength versus strength competitions, maybe not just provincial rugby, but that's all the stuff now after the World Cup and after the under 20s that we're going to come together and sort of see how we can implement that. We if we our women play 12 to 14 games a year. That's more or less what they play. Now, that's not nearby enough. I spoke to the Canadian guys. They play 26 to 30. So that's another thing. And you girls up there play Six Nations one another. You've got uh, England would fly over and play a friendly against France, that sort of thing. We don't have that. We're not playing in the New Zealand, America, Australia competition. So only thing that we have is the Africa Cup in Madagascar, and there again we beat them by big margins. It's a what we need is strength versus strength more, and so there's plans in place. Few little things like we've got a varsity university women's tournament starting now as well, like the men. Schools rugby, we've got little hubs that we develop, to be competitive more in schools rugby. Yeah, so yes, it's a long way to go, but we're getting there. We understand our weaknesses and the plans are in place.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Thank you for sharing that. Speaking about players again and going back to one player in particular, Nadine Ruis is a player that you've moved from fly half to fullback to scrum half now. So what's the plans with her? Why have you been moving her positions and what about her are you looking to maximize by doing that?
you without being rude to any other player. If I had three Nadines in our team, I would play 9, 10, and 15. And for that matter, if I had four, I would play a wing, or five, I would play a centre as well. She's just one of those unreal players. She reminds me a lot of DuPont. She can play sevens. She can do everything. She's got the full package. So for me now, I realized I got to bring her closer to the scrum, and give her more freedom to play, to tap and play and have a go. Just have a go. Where at 10 she would think she must be a playmaker, put other people away, and at 15 I used her a lot for counter attack and for those things. But for me, so far we've got good nines and good scrum offs, but. Yeah, at the moment she's working well there. That second half against Canada, she had them guessing, and I loved, I loved that. Yeah, so we've got those kind of girls in South Africa, in other codes, in other sport codes and stuff. We just need to introduce them to rugby. There's still a bit of a stigma, and a lot of people in this country, that rugby is a men's game. So, but we're breaking that stigma down week after week, step by step, and with the backing of South African rugby. And if we can do that, there'll be more Nadine Rooses coming out. I promise you that. There's a couple of them there. They just need to understand that rugby is a wonderful game. It is a game. The laws are protecting them from injuries. It's not like the old days, It's not a mug's game. It's a gentleman's game. So gentle ladies can play it as well.
Well, that's the thing. That's kind of always been the kind of uncomfortable question with women's rugby in South Africa, hasn't it? Is you've got this men's team that's so dominant. Why is the women's team so far behind? But as you say, there's that almost cultural thing of it's there's that extra hurdle to get over where someone, if we're honest, in like the UK, for example, is much closer to being over that hurdle.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. I think, and the fortunate thing is we've got about 4, 5 of our girls playing now in England and applying their trade there. So what is wonderful, they're bringing the expertise, what they learned there across as well. So the more we can have that, and Rassie did the same thing, the coach before Rassie could only pick South African players, and Alistair could see her when he was the coach, and he was coaching with uh, behind his back. As soon as they all over the world, and when we tease that you bring as well, and they learn there and they come and apply it. Yeah. So the more girls I can get to play abroad as well, without weakening our local competition, will be good. That'll be, you need the balance. You don't want all of them play overseas and they come across. But then looking at Canada, of their team, how many of them are not playing in Canada? They
Exactly.
they play all over the world. So that's professionalism. You look at golfers. They play all over the world, but for us, they still South Africans. And I think if that mind shift can also take place, that the more play overseas and they come back and play in the national team, the more local girls has got to fill in their roles. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of things that traditionally was hindering us. We're in the process to sort that out.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Thank you. And I think that balance of players abroad and at home is something that the likes of South Africa and Canada in the women's game as well, and then Argentina in the men's game is something that they're able to pull off that other countries can't. So it's fascinating. Speaking about bringing the girls on, um, that must be an exciting opportunity in women's rugby that you see, because if you look at someone like Ireland, for example, they 2.5 years ago they were nowhere. They were the bottom team in the Six Nations, and then they made a couple of tweaks, and then they beat the Black Ferns last year. What kind of inspiration can you take from that, and how realistically, how much progress do you think the Springbok women can make in a relatively short amount of time?
Oh, yeah, the sky's the limit. If you see what we did from last year, I'm thinking of last year when when we played Australia. They gave us some. I think it was 56 something, and we lost by a point when we played them. Now the same with with Canada now as well. It can happen very quickly. But then saying that you can make progress, quick progress, so by doing a few things right quickly, but you need to change the system if you want to have longevity, if you want to have it to sustain over a long term, and that's our challenge. That is our challenge to get this, as I said earlier. For me to teach them a few things that work in the game that I've learned is sort of easy, but now to go to the next level, you need more than that. You need better players, better skilled players, more, and conditioning you plays a massive role. So especially with women as well, because their physique, their thing is you need to find the athletes. And not just players who think they can play rugby, if I can put it politely that way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's the ambition of professionalism and making the women professional is giving them, if nothing else, the time to get that conditioning, that time in the gym to get to the position where they
Yeah,
need to be.
but to answer your question, you'll be amazed some of the girls who buy in and they go on the right diets and the right programs, the right conditioning, and they you can't believe how they improve so quickly. It's amazing. I can think without mentioning names, it won't be fair of me. I can think of 5, 6 girls. It's not the same girls that I started working last year in August. It's from amateurs to professionals very quickly. And you can sense it, you can feel it. And one thing that I love working with them, they're very, very teachable. So if you tell them a thing, it's not like with the men, they will say, yeah, but, or this, or that, or which is right, I agree. But they soak like sponges, they very, very coachable. And that's what I love. I love this stint at my older age to work with people who want to listen.
Well, I'm going to ask you lots more about your coaching career and your approach to coaching in a minute. But if people are enjoying what they're watching or listening to so far, please feel free to give the channel a subscribe and maybe even share a link with a friend. Or if you're listening on audio formats, if you're enjoying what you're hearing so far, please give us a 5-star review and share a link with a friend. It's quite difficult to grow on audio formats, so any help that you can offer us is massively appreciated. Okay, Swys. So I want to talk to you about your coaching approach now, and a word that you've used a lot in this chat so far, and something that I had down to ask you is, you've come from a background of you broke through teaching the age grade teams, I believe, at the Sharks, and then you've been in an environment most of your career where you've had to develop your own players. Are you a teacher? Is that the word that you like to use to describe yourself?
Oh yeah, born and bred. My whole family, my wife, we're all teachers, and I still believe, that my teaching background is so valuable for me in being a coach. It's more than just a game. You gotta understand, and a lot of the teaching skills that you apply in coaching. Not just on the field, off the field as well.
And how do you obviously people learn in different ways. So how do you adapt your coaching to make sure that everyone is on board with your teaching and your message is getting across to everybody?
Yeah, look, I always split when I love coaching coaches and working with them, and I did that for a couple of years. Apart from working with SuperSport, where I did analyzing and stuff. For me, it's when I work with coaches, is for them to realize firstly they can make a difference in people's lives and win the soul and win the mind, and if you get the player on your side, then the coaching becomes very sort of very easy. It's all about a trust thing, especially in our country, with our history and our background and stuff. And and I say it respectfully. A lot of our girls don't have the father figure. They don't know. There's no trust relation. So it's all about trust and trusting people, and then you can start making a difference. And for me, then to teach a player to beat the player in front of him, or to pass correctly with your eyes, or to do that, or all those things, then it's easy. But it all starts with building trust, and that's why if you I loved working with teams at battle, and then to see how they improve, and like we did with the Lions, and those days when I was with Greek was, and I love doing that. I love doing that. That's my niche, because once you win the trust and the confidence of the player, the coaching part almost becomes easy.
Are you morning to night kind of on the training field, getting the ball in the players' hands? Do you do classrooms? Do you give them homework?
Yeah, I think the thing is to make them students of the game ASAP. So, for example, in my position, specific skills, and I give them a lot of homework, and I got to get them students. Give me ideas and clips. For example, Nadine, how does the pond pass? What is the running lines? Learn, 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 learn. So self study as well and self coaching as well. I'm big on that. I'm for sure big on that, and especially now going into the World Cup more, they got to analyze and they got to become students of the game and love it. And it's I and there's it's so easy these days on on player groups on your group on the cell phone. I can of when I was with Shimlas now, yes, it's a fantastic story we had there. They were last Shimlas at the university, and they won the big cup 3 years later. It's another one of those where we just had to win the trust and yeah, and make them students of the game. Make them really, really students of the game. Love what they're doing, and not only love what they're doing, applying what they're doing on the practice field. And then the big thing when I work with coaches is the difference between teaching and coaching. We can't take the classroom to the field. We gotta understand that when you teach, and that's knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. But when you coach, it's like a boxer. Then it's key factors only, and the buzzword is then intensity. So that's the little things you apply. But listen, we're going into a coaching session now, and way beyond your question.
No, it's exactly what I want. Please, absolutely loving it. So, are you, how much if you're a student of the game, how much rugby do you watch? I mean, I watch an unhealthy amount of rugby, and I'm just a fan. How much rugby do you watch on a weekend?
Yeah, I can become a big problem because if I can, it's all I do. It's one of the things that I just do, So when I worked at SuperSport and I was the analyzer there for them, I watch rugby way too much. I'm always become so soaked up. It becomes almost a drug if you start analyzing properly, especially if you're comparing positions with positions. And then what I do love a lot, I would like to look at tactics and strategies of coaches, what they want to achieve, that their string attack that they use, or their counter attack policy, or their breakdown. The breakdown now is such a big, big, big thing at the moment that everyone is working on. How to isolate the defenders and how to get quick ball, and yeah, so it becomes a science, and sometimes almost too much because you can't just you got to be balanced, and yeah, sometimes it's just too much rugby, and now it's rugby again talking to you.
I'm sorry about that, but have you been watching the British and Irish Lions, and what do you think that they're trying to do?
Yeah, I've been watching them. I must say, it's yes, man. What I do like is they're trying to attack two channels wider. And what we talk about the stack attack, where a lot of people did it from 10 and 12, how they spread it wide and then stack from wider with a punchline wider, and yeah, they're doing it well. For me, that's a bloody strong group of players, and there's individuals that's really I just love watching them and see what they do. But you can't say to talk in this country too much about the British Lions, because you just want to beat them. You don't want to make them heroes.
Absolutely. Well, I've got a conspiracy theory that the way they've been attacking so far is a bluff, and then when they play the Aussies in the first game, they're just going to go route one straight up the middle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's almost like the Springboks. We were preparing for 3 years. The big attacking brand of rugby, attack, 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 was the buzzword. And 6 months to every World Cup, it became box kick and pressure, and we don't want to play now off, and we scrum for penalty, and we maul for penalty. Yeah, so it is amazing what pressure does to teams. But I think this Lions team wants to play a multi-phase game, and not just I think their strength is their individual skilled players that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a favorite team to watch?
A couple of 2 3 years ago, I watched Joe Smith's a lot of his stuff from Ireland. I really enjoyed that because I'm a tech coach. The way he would run, uh, uh, you know, his pods off 10 and 12 with 4, 5, and 7 with 10 behind, 1, 2, and 3 with 12 behind. How would he structure his attack? I really sort of loved that. Yeah, I enjoyed the French flair, but at the moment I'm enjoying South African rugby the most because every week is something new. If it's not a line out in the middle of the field, it's a kickoff to this, or it's really pushing the boundaries, and I love that. I
It,
must say, Rassie gets criticized a lot, but you should have heard that people at that Port Elizabeth Stadium, or Kuberga is the new name, whenever the Springboks do something that's not the norm. And yeah, I've always been in my life the Chambeau in golf. You know the way he approached it, the crazy scientist. I love those sort of things. That's why I love Barbarian rugby. But then if you ask me, there's certain coaches that I uh, do admire and like to see how they play. And yeah, and then some of them who I don't want to play, and I won't mention them.
okay, fair enough. Yeah, you say Rassie pushing the boundaries. You think he pushing the buttons as well of some people. But so you mentioned Joe Schmidt there, and so a kind of defining factor about Joe Schmidt's rugby at times has been the story was that he banned offloads at Leinster. He said, "No, we're not going to offload anymore." And I had the good fortune to interview Andre Pretorius, the former Springbok fly half as well, who's a Lions guy, I believe. Um,
Yes.
and he said, "Look, you're either an offloading team or you're not. It's you can't be half pregnant," was the word that he used. So, are you an offloading team coach?
Not whatsoever. That's why I like more. What happens with offloading? If you'll have one or two and it looks brilliant, spectacular, and you'll go, yes, yes, because always in the car crash, one offload too many, one offload that's not that, and defenders work it out. If you're offload team, they know how to tackle legs or to tackle ball, in that case to smother the ball. So I like it when I coached the Lions for all the years, and with the Springboks when I was there. I like to get the quick ball and the phases up, and the art of the quick ruck and the art of the quick run, and outsmart opponents that way, much rather than offloads. But then certain individuals like RG Snyman, I will allow him to offload because that's his God-given circus act. He do that so well. The same with Sunny Bull when you had the chicken wing pass. Elton Yankee's little foot pass kick when I worked with him. So when players has got the ability to do go out of the structure, I encourage that, and they become almost become like a Quagga Smith. When you coach him in the wider channels or in the breakdown, you allow him. But a lot of players, I like to coach them in a well-oiled structure, but you got to still now give individuals freedom. Like a Cheslin Colby, you can't put him in a box. If you put him in a box, you're going to lose him. A structure, I'm talking about structure box.
Absolutely. How do you manage that as a manager, though? How do you face a group of 30 players and say 29 of you are not allowed to do this, but that one is? How do you not annoy people doing that?
Yeah, that's the art of coaching. That's the art of coaching. To know exactly, I always refer it to. There was an old movie, The Magnificent Seven, where one guy was brilliant with his fist, and the other guy hitting the whip, and the other guy. So, and if you can get that together, sort of in a structure, and you know what's the strength of every player, and work around that. Because if for example, if a Dwayne Vermeulen carries the ball, the support reacts totally different from when a Cheslin Colby carries the ball. And you once you identify I call it your game breakers, your steppers, your once you identify them, it becomes and you build your structure around that. That's what I like. But some coaches overdo the structure. They draw their plans on the board, and they just say everyone do that, and then you can kill a lot of individual enterprise and skills if you do it that way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So another thing that Andre told me about was in a line break situation, whether you prioritize just getting into support and running the support line, or you prioritize getting back into structure. And he used the example of the French is when the French make a line break, it's all just get to the ball carrier, get beyond his shoulder, whereas other nations are much more about getting the structure in place. Is that which of those two are you most?
I'm tend totally to once there's a line break, it becomes freedom play. because your role's a freedom play. I mean, you play off 9 or off 10, the way they call it. But to say stick to the structure after a line break it never worked for me. Never worked for me because the positions changed dramatically. Where we want them in the attack string once there's a line break. So we went on a line break, and it's a clear line break. We would call freedom.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much. So I can tell from speaking to you, I can tell that you're still very much attack first and it's your passion. So what trends are you kind of noticing in attack now? Because it's noticeable that every competition around the world in rugby at the moment is record numbers of tries being scored. What do you put that down to?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting thing. I think it's a bunch of guys who, uh, the, at the moment, from France, right, there's a lot of attacking mindset coaches in charge, and I don't want to mention names, but you can easily go to and the conservative, like what happened in Wales for a long time, and that killed them. It was just this box kick pressure game, and if you win the aerial battle, you win the game, and that sort of thing. So yeah, but there's still stats that prove, unfortunately, that attacking sides and play attacking rugby doesn't necessarily win the games. It's more the ones who win the territory, the set play battle, the defense battles, and stuff like that. So yeah, there's so many variables, but at the moment, especially New Zealand now, Razor Robinson, I coached against him super at franchise level. He wants to open the game up. They put phase after phase after phase. So I wonder how they're going to react when a team just really hits them behind the gain line and slow their ball down, because at the moment they're looking very, very, very dangerous as far as that's concerned. Yeah, the French will be the French. They've got their big runners up front, and you can't with the French. You can't really pick up a structure, and that's always been very dangerous. How do you offend a team if they don't have a structure that you can pick up clearly? So defense coaches love it when it's a structured team. They can work out a plan for that. But when they play freedom, and as you say, a lot of offloads, it puts the pressure on the defense coaches again.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you mentioned a name there, Razor Robertson, and he was almost kind of your nemesis back in the Lions days when you guys got to three finals in a row. And I was going to ask you about one of the questions I had written to ask you yesterday was what advice would you give to the Bulls as a team that has gotten to several finals without managing to get over the line? But then this morning, as we're recording, we've had the news that your old colleague, Johan Akkerman, has been appointed the Bulls coach. Can I just get your reaction to that? What do you think of him getting that job?
The best guy for the best job I've heard in a long time. I was very blessed and fortunate to work for. I coached him years back at Griquas as a player, and then I was high performance coach at the Sharks. Later, we got him there, and he became Springbok at the age of I think 37. And then he went to the Lions, and he phoned me and said, "Come and join me." I said, "No way, I'm not going to Joburg. I love Durban." But it was the most wonderful years, and my son Neil joined him in Japan for a stint of 4 years. So if you ask me, it's almost a wrong guy to ask, because I don't know a better man on and off the field than Johan Akkerman. He's just an unreal human being. He's a brilliant coach, and yeah, he's a man of God. The players know exactly where they stand with him. There's no bullshit, no nothing, and a lot of fun, a lot of laughter, and real. If I can sum him up, he's real. There's no bullshit. There's no nothing. He's a fantastic guy, and I don't think they could have made a better appointment ever than Johan Akkerman at the Bulls. He's from there. He played for them. He knows the culture. He knows the Afrikaans-speaking people very well. And maybe the wrong guy to ask, because that's one of the best appointments I ever heard of in a long time. He'll make a massive difference. You'll see that.
Well, he must have impressed the people at the top because if rumors are to be believed, a lot of people wanted that job. So it's interesting.
Yeah, no, very much. If you just see what he did with the forwards of those under 20s in 3 months' time, uh, Yeah, no, we come a very long way, and I've learned every day when I speak to him, I listen to him. He's just a wise man and a very, very clever coach. And yeah, what more can you say?
What do you think he would be saying to the Bulls players as someone who's been there to multiple finals and not managed to get it over the line as they have? What advice do you think is the advice to give players in that scenario?
He won't come. For starters, he's very clever not to say everything and speak his mind straight away. He'll know when to say what. And you know what is one of his best strengths that a lot of coaches don't do? They come and coach a team and a structure. He gets into the individual's head. You will spend, so we've got three hookers. You've got Akker van der Merwe, Malcolm Marx, and Robbie Coetzee. Now, no one knows who's Robbie Coetzee. He's the third hooker. But Akkers would spend hours and hours developing him. And that's the kind of guy he is. He's, to no, he's just and then what he does with his forwards of him, I don't know what he do. They go in a camp normally, one or two camps, and just them. Don't know what happens there, but they come back and they destroy. And I would then take the backs for a fishing trips, and we share emotions and sit in a circle and talk. Yeah. So no, he's just an amazing guy, and then on your question, he's got a few very clever ideas, which is little secrets that he does to get the best out of players. He's very good.
That's awesome. Yeah, maybe he's like Dan's farm. He goes off to a farm somewhere and he has them in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
shed.
Yeah, look, I must say, when they come back, they look like they shoot one another with these paintball guns and stuff like that. And I don't know what they do, but that's just one of his little things that he used. And then what he focused a lot on is the value system of the players. He doesn't like a bully mentality. He likes to introduce the young players, make them feel important. A young Malcolm Marx will be and will when they would come to the bus, he would say, "You guys sit in front, the first players, because we're so glad to have you." So instead of going or sit wherever you want, not in the bus, wherever you be. So what I'm saying, he used a lot of little techniques and strategies to get the best out of his team. He's more than just a coach.
Speaking of young players, the last question that I want to ask you is about if you look at the Springbok senior team now, the kind of the narrative going into this summer test or summer for us in the UK is the new players and seeing who the new players are going to be who break into that team. But I'm starting to think like, is it new players breaking in or is it old players hanging on? Because the talent that's coming through is unbelievable. How do you see that dynamic? And how fast do you think the turnover in players could be for the Springboks?
Man, and that is the biggest trick I believe Russia has got to, on that question, has got to get right. A big mistake that we all fall in. You get so sentimentally involved with the older players, you push them past their sell-by date. They've done the job before, and you think they're going to do again, and you don't realize everything is a bit slower. Everything is not what it was, but you still believe they can get there. So for me, it's not really a question, but for me, one of the biggest attributes any coach can have is to know when to make that change. It's now time. Like, for example, we had Ross Grenier, a scrum off at the lines, and Faf du Plessis. Now, I kept on picking Ross, and everyone said Faf is ready, Faf is ready, Faf is ready. But I stuck to Ross because he was such a team man. And then in hindsight, still love Ross Grenier up to today. But in hindsight, maybe we should have came earlier with Faf. So it's that fine line. Is he going to, same with Rassie now, is he going to take Damien and Willie Leroux and those guys, and even Pollard, who's still relatively young, but is it Sasha's time now, or the old guy? So I believe you got to get the balance right. Some guys do well, especially forwards. You can push the envelope a bit further, I believe. Like a Victor Matfield, he's like a red wine. He just after 34, he said to me, "Should he stop or not? We stop or not? We big mates." And I said to him, "Man, you've got 4 years left in you. You just because you drugs, you know." so, yeah. So it's a fine line when to know when to come with the new players or not. But when you're good and you're young and you're really good, like this Pollock fellow that you guys have there, I can watch him all day, and I think he must be pushed very hard, very quickly, and they did it.
Absolutely. Well, fair enough then. So that brings to the end of the discussion that we've been having, Swys. I've learned so much in the short time speaking to you. I'm so looking forward to sharing it with people. Good luck at the World Cup later this year. I'm going to be pushing for the Springbok Women. I really do believe that you're on to good things there. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me.
Oh, it was lovely. You, thank you so much, and what you're doing for rugby as well. Keep on doing it. Thanks, my mate.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Enjoy the rugby, and I hope that everybody's team wins. Cheers.